Hello, very welcome to the Career Talkie with Abhilash. It's been my fortunate times that I have been able to interact with people from multiple career leaders in different fields. As you are aware that I've named it as Career Talkie. ये एक फिल्मों की तरह है, एक फिल्म की तरह है किसी के करियर में। और जैसे हमारी ज़िंदगी में होता है, फ़िल्मों में होता है, एक उतार-चढ़ाव होता है, एक टर्निंग मोमेंट आता है, एक क्लाइमैक्स होता है, एंड देन थिंग्स गो वेल आफ्टर द वे वी लुक एट ए करियर जर्नी इन दैट वेज़। इंस्पिरेशनल हमें तब लगता है जब हम उस करियर के हीरो हों। आज मेरे साथ आई एम वेरी फॉर्च्यूनेट टू हैव मेजर जनरल अशोक शरौन, जो एक्चुअली में हीरो हैं, द रियल हीरो फ्रॉम इंडियन आर्म्ड फोर्सेस। And we are very, very fortunate to have him while we celebrate 25 years of Kargil Vijay. Good afternoon, sir.
Hello, Abhilash. How are you?
I'm
It's
very good,
always
sir. I'm really delighted to see you and such a smiling face, sir. I want to ask you that are you the way they portray a Fauji and the smile you carry are totally poles apart. You seem to be very, very mixing, sir. And thank you so much for your time. You squeezed out time. I know Kargil Vijay is on 26th, and I could you could give me some time, 30 minutes for this session today before the event actually. Thank you so much, sir.
it's a privilege, Abhilash, to be on your show. You have a wonderful spoken reputation in all the circles, and I'm really looking forward to a very interesting discussion and a lot of incisive questions from your part, which I will do my best to answer as frankly and honestly as possible.
Thank you, sir. But मैं बताना चाहूँगा it's more of a I find or I see my guest as a storyteller. वो अपने करियर के हीरो है, एंड यू नो योर स्टोरीज मच बेटर बिकॉज हमने तो बाहर से सुना है, हमने तो बस सुना है और हमने आज आपके मुंह से वो चीज़ समझना है, सो दैट द यूथ today who are watching this, youngster people at mid career, people at different level of having struggles in their career, when they hear it they can understand and relate with various dilemmas and concerns which happens in a career journey. And I, as a I've been able to interact with multiple people from different career, and I've found this thing common. आप किसी भी फील्ड में हो, उतार चढ़ाव होता है, इट्स अ टीम वर्क। आपके सीनियर, आपके टीम, आपके जूनियर, आपके कोलीग, दे ऑल क्रिएट दैट वर्क एनवायरनमेंट, द वर्ल्ड ऑफ वर्क फॉर यू, जिससे एक डिसीजन होता है, जिससे आपका करियर जर्नी और आपका मोटिवेशन बनता है। So with this, sir, may I request that if you can just let us know from your how did you join? What was your aim of joining the? You are a second generation officer that I'm aware, but I want my audience to understand what is a second generation officer means, what core and what how did you join army and where did you do your schooling and things like that. The first phase of your life till you joined the Olive Greens.
Like you brought out, I was born into the army. My father was in the Deccan Horse. He's a veteran who had a tremendous influence in my life. He joined as a Swar in the 19 Lancers in 1936, and he learned English from a dictionary which used to hold a torchlight to in the night, and rose to become an officer in 1943 and joined the Prince Albert Victor Zone Cavalry, and he was in all the battles in Burma till independence. And then from there, once PAVO went to Pakistan, he joined the Deccan Horse. So I was born into the Deccan Horse in the 6th Squadron, which he had spent his entire life in. So I was actually brought up amongst tanks. We had small cantonments like out at Kalucha, thatched huts, and the tanks were just right next door. So tanks were moving for training, for repair, for maintenance. So as a child, I remember the sound and sights and sounds of tanks growing up till I went to St. George's College, Missouri. In fact, class 4 and 5 I did in Sangrur, and I remember it was Punjabi medium. So I answered class 5 in Gurmukhi. So my father was very amused. He said, "Jat ladka Punjabi bolta hai." Because I went only to the Gurdwara and all the men spoke Punjabi, so I was fluent in Punjabi. So he said, "Okay, off to St. George's." So I went to St. George's College, Missouri, and my sister went to Waverly Convent in Missouri. So you can say that from his pay package, 80% of what he earned as a CO went into our education. And St. George's is one of the top rung schools in the world, I would say. It's been awarded as the best school in the British Parliament. And it was established in 1858 by the Irish Brotherhood. Now, they had a tremendous impact on all of us who were there in school. The value systems of honesty, straightforwardness, focus on English, spoken English, English literature, made us write a lot of short stories, imagine things, a lot of emphasis on games we were playing throughout the year in the rain. And then building up and fostering a lot of camaraderie with our friends. In fact, my best friends, all even today, go back to school. And when I finished school, I had set my mind on NDA, though my father said become a lawyer or anything, that normal way. I said, no, dad. Now, he was very encouraging. And I remember as a 15-year-old, he was a commander in Gaya. And we had a huge house because it had been reappropriated to the hospital earlier. And there's a massive estate of almost 8 to 10 acres behind, which were actually a no man's land. Nobody really owned it, a thick forest. So he gave me a 12 bore and taught me how to shoot a little bit. And then he would tell me, Chalo, aaj do khargosh leke aao. Or 6 partridge, we have a dinner. So before the age of 16, I had to go out hunting for rabbit
Hunting.
and partridge.
So may I
So
ask which year is this? Like, which era and
in
which?
1968, uh, just before joining NDA in 69, July 69.
So
So
in
there
your
was a
school,
golden period.
if I may ask, the school is known for having princes of prince and princess studying in of that Victorian era in that school. So were your friends from the elite families of the country or outside or abroad? How was it your schooling? You mentioned that you had a best friend and a good camaraderie till with them till today. How was it? Like only you joined army or everybody
No,
was
no.
enthusiastic to?
They're all over the world. In fact, they're settled all over the world, and many of them rose to fame. Kamaljeet Kuku, actor who's there in Bollywood, very famous actor Kamaljeet. He's a classmate, close friend. We're in touch every day. Ram Ramaswamy became Vice Chancellor of Hyderabad University, currently senior professor in IIT Delhi. Anil Patel is there. He's opened his own business in USA. And Harsha Chandra is a senior chartered accountant. There is people from Thailand who are big businessmen in Bangkok. So we are spread. Harinder Rawat from the Navy was the last captain of INS Vikrant. So basically, two of us were the ones who really, all others into various fields of life. But we are in touch every day. So,
That you
sending
mentioned.
messages, yeah. So it's a very close knit family.
So NDA, so which year you joined and
Yeah, I joined
uh,
in 1969, July 42nd course NDA. And NDA was a very formative stage of our life, which actually changes a person. Our time, it was very, very tough. We really went through a lot. And at that time, we were wondering that how does all this hunching, rolling, going to help us later in life. But frankly, it made men out of us. And NDA was such a change in everyone's personality that when I joined my squadron, that to the sixth squadron, which I was born into, I went back into that as a second generation officer. I was as tough mentally and physically as any of the men. And it was all thanks to the grounding we had in NDA and IMA. And frankly, when I look back at that part, I do not see myself in any other form of work or job other than an army life for myself. I was like, that,
allow me to pause for a second here. In that era, 65, 67, army life was the best life, and everybody kind of wanted to join the army. And what I've read through books that the topmost aspiration, not just because uh, army has created that kind of uh, movement of, the need for the youths to join. But apart from that, the country, after the Indochina war and things like that, there was a momentum to be part of the armed forces in any which way, not just NDA, but there were these other ways of which there were some entries where people have joined for short service, or what I've read through in books. Because 1971 war was again one point where I've heard that people joined for short term, and they were trained in to join forces and be a part of the army. So you joined army in that era. I wanted to understand, wasn't it little dicey for you, because just a young officer out of NDA and the country is going to a war, and like सब बोलते तो हैं फौज इसके लिए बना है, बट क्या लिटरली पहले ही दिन से ही मतलब यू आर देयर ऑन दी फील्ड? एंड बिकॉज आई वांट टू नो सर थोड़ी सी वो स्टोरी. एंड नाउ आई अंडरस्टैंड व्हाई कारगिल डिडंट सीम अ बिगर वर्ड, बिकॉज यू आर 1969 NDA, so I'm sure you were very hard, uh, well trained, and all these things were already ingrained in within you. So थोड़ी सी glimpse of 1971 and era of that time.
Yeah, actually, very lucky to have joined a regiment like the Deccan Horse. You know, we were raised in 1790, and the Deccan Horse has been through each and every war you can think of. You know, First World War, you're looking at France, Flanders, Palestine. Second World War, again, it was in Burma. 65 war, Asal Uttar at Khimkaran. 71 war is at Cham, ahead of Akhnur. And then all officers and men have been through counterinsurgency operations in J&K, all. We lost three of our very young, highly motivated officers in, who were martyred, battling terrorists. So we have a history of. Now, the thing about Deccan Horse is the value systems, traditions, ethos, as to why it teaches you why armies fight and why are men willing to die. Now, this is something which I cover in my talks, which I say that it's very difficult to understand when you talk about traditions and ethos. As to why are men willing to do that, which no other organization in the country can manage their manpower to do something. Yeah. So that is what an old regiment teaches you in terms of loyalty, dependability, honesty, and the kind of bonding brotherhood and the kind of motivation you build in where he says, okay, मैं diagnosis के लिए मरने के लिए तैयार हूँ. You have to build him. It takes 10, 12 years for that person to develop that kind of instinct and relationship. Now, that is what you talk about all the old units, if you saw in all the battles. If you actually study the history of bravery, you will find that the men are imbued by the tradition. So all armies, professional army, sexual army live on tradition and ethos. You take away tradition and ethos, actually you are left with nothing. So this is something which is very important for everyone to understand. And every army in the world which has disregarded its tradition and ethos has come to grief.
So going
So
forward, sir, like
yeah,
you mentioned, I think you also gave a hint on the life coaching which you do the army way, and I'll come back to that phase of your life, that phase of life. But I am right now in 1970. Yes, absolutely. I wanted to drop in things, but I'm still in 1971, and I want to understand your illustrious career of 38 years with Kargil. If you can shortly let us know about the journey, and especially for I would want the audience to understand Deccan horses are basically uh, टैंक रेजिमेंट्स. थोड़ी सी सर उनके बारे में बता दीजिए, बिकॉज आई एम अवेयर दैट मेनी ऑफ आवर ऑडियंस आर नॉट अवेयर अबाउट वेरियस रेजिमेंट्स इन द आर्मी. तो उनको तो सब एक ही लगता है. थोड़ी सी एक लाइन ऑन दैट. एंड as I understand and as I have seen that the toppers of NDA, they go into the tank regiment and they are the top brains. And and there are so many stories about it, the legacy which sir spoke about, being from 1790 to like every war that the British era has seen, these regiments have actually made them the winner everywhere. And that legacy puts them ahead and forefront. वो जो culture है, वो जो अपने यूनिट के लिए जो जज्बा है, दैट्स मेक देम वेरी वेरी वर्ल्ड वाइड वेरी वेरी illustrious regiment. तो सर थोड़ी सी आपकी तरफ से ऑन knowledge on what is this various regiments,
Yeah,
and
thank
then
you.
we go to the career part of yours.
Absolutely. So what we're looking at when you talk about an armored regiment, you're looking at 45 tanks and a lot of BMPs, and you're looking at a whole lot of support logistic vehicles and about 550, 600 men. And the battle crew is highly trained, highly motivated, and the training progress, what you find to be perpetually ready for war. Actually, that is what is when people say, "Na, what do you do in peacetime?" Actually, it's not peacetime. You are honed to go into any kind of operation in 8 to 12 hours. That means your level of degree of your own personal preparation of your equipment, your training together. Because once the gong goes, then you don't want to have time. And we've done it often and I've got mobilized for war, whether it is Prakram or before that, so often where we had to mobilize and go. And Prakram was a close call. I was commanding an armored brigade at that time.
Sir,
And we were absolutely and totally ready to go to war. So there are times where there are you come absolutely on the brink. So to reach that stage, and this is what will come out in all subsequent lessons, that you had to be ready for conventional war at very, very short notice, 24/7, right? And that is what the regimental soldiering is. So actually, when you talk about so-called peacetime soldiering, now you're looking at being trained, ready for war. You're looking at motivation, looking at physical fitness. You're looking at a lot of games, sports, bonding. You're looking at a very good, healthy social life, and so that whole thing comes into one kind of operation.
absolutely.
Right?
As you mentioned, sir, peacetime is actually not peacetime, but to get ready at a flash of the moment, and how it to mobilize. And it's not just about one person, but the entire unit, puri fauj, pure all the men, and in a very shortest span of time. जो आपने बताया Operation Parakram, you're all ready. So before we go to, I mean, I know Operation Parakram comes after Operation Vijay, but I want to understand, sir. uh, आपने भी शुरुआत कैप्टन से की होगी, एंड then you have subsequently risen the ranks, and today, I mean, before you retired as major general. I want to, or we would want to know more on the aspect of your colleagues, team, and men, how they have shaped up your leadership qualities, abilities, and when was the first stage given to you? Although I can understand, like from 1971, you being there, you would have been given the responsibility immediately post your NDA. But for the people to understand the journey of a Fauji officer, when that first responsibility is given to you, and how did you mature up, वो leadership आपके अंदर कैसे डाली गई और आती गई, that is what I want to, if one, any story, any, so you might be having many of them, एक छोटा सा for the sake of my audience to understand and feel that ये really में होता है.
Frankly, what happens is that the leadership is something which builds on you as you progress in the army career because it is based a lot on interaction, based a lot on circumstances, it's based a lot on the people. So your leadership style actually grows. So let's say when you join the regiment first, till you do your YO's course, you are not even a lieutenant. You are nothing. Actually, you're a mister. You are put under a JCO, you're put in the tank. And everybody is senior to you at that. Even the driver, everyone. Right? And they literally bullshit you around in the sense that ठीक है साहब अब बीच block खोल के रख दो तुसी उन tank ले जाओ so you start at a very base level as a tank battle crew, and that is your training starts from there. It is only after your young officers course, or in our time it was 9 months, that you come back fully trained on the tank. And then what happens is your leadership part then comes in at everything that you do starting from the morning, whether you're in a PT parade, games parade, maintenance parade, how you settle your men, and then the administration, looking after each one, getting to know the families, getting to know each man backwards, and then how does your troop perform at that stage in intertroop competitions, trying to win at that level? Then you build it up into squadron. So what happens is the leadership part in you grows as you grow, and the requirement keeps changing, and you start imbibing a lot of values and systems as you go along. It takes you
You
what is
become
the
more dynamic. You
yes.
Very
Yes,
dynamic, right?
exactly. It is not theoretical. In fact, I'll become that later. You know, in the army, it's very funny where you do something, but there's no jargon behind it. So what happens is that without the jargon, so if you go to a management school, there's a lot of jargon, right? A lot of verbiage. Now we don't know any of that jargon or verbiage. We just do it. So you ask a chap define, he can't because no one has given him that theoretic that you are this, you are this. In your management technique, you must be like this. You must tolerate diversity. You're doing it. So what happens is in the army as officers, we land up doing a whole gamut of activity without trying to give it a nomenclature. You know, that is actually the hallmark of military leadership. If you tell somebody, I mean, because वो tick mark वाले हमारा इतना ज़्यादा, we don't have that ethos of, yes, there would be talks in literature, but everyone says, do it, lead from the front, set an example. So while you're setting that example, all the attributes you find in theory are actually getting embodied in you in a little practical sense. So I think what actually stood out from the officers that I admired in my career, and I've had very, very outstanding officers, very outstanding, is firstly a sense of purpose, a deep sense of commitment and purpose towards your task and mission. Second is absolute honesty and integrity. Third is practicing what you preach. And fourth in leadership is empathy, empathizing with each and every person and understanding them and going about it with a large heart. The first thing even our senior told us, keep a large heart. So when you put these into practice, you find that more or less everything gets covered, you know, as long as these attributes are there because they show. And once your juniors, your men get to see these attributes, and now you put in tradition, you put in ethos, you put in your regimental spirit, you put in your squadron spirit, then you get molded. I've had a lot of experiences. I've had one of my men, in fact, we were going for some kind of a operation, and this guy is practicing, and he tell me in Punjabi, he was a Sikh driver, साहब वो गोली चलाऊगा मैं गड्डी ऐ करांगा तो गोली ਮੈਨੂੰ ਲੱਗੂਗੀ ਤੂੰ ਮੇਰੇ ਸੱਜੇ ਆ ਜਾਓ and ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਕਾਰਬਾਈਨ ਨਾਲ fire ਕਰੋ. So he's practicing taking bullets on his shoulder. I'm just trying to tell you, I mean, this is the degree of motivation people achieve. Now, how did that come about?
My God. So you are saying it so simply. Hearing it itself seems very like what kind of mental toughness and readiness.
Yeah.
Uh, so I want because we also have a short of time and we are limited with time. Although I want you to converse more on it. But sir, during one of the most aspect is you were also director of military operations during the Kargil war, and as we are celebrating or commemorating the 25 years of Kargil Operation Vijay, I would like you to just share us anything which you think the young generation of today should know about it and should actually should in every breath they live wherever they are there and when they speak of Kargil उनको ये जानना जरूरी है. So what is your thought? I want to hear it from you, sir.
Okay. So, firstly, at the outset, I was very privileged to be the director military operations in the section dealing with uh, this entire thing. In fact, my section had very outstanding officers, and we had two halves at that time dealing with the entire from Northern Command all the way to Southern Command, conventional operations as well as counterinsurgency operations. So that entire gamut, and I was very fortunate to work almost directly under General Vij, who was then the DGMO, later on became Chief of Army Staff. Because officers who were senior to me had a lot of other, tasks to perform. So my section was directly responsible for the daily inputs and outputs, daily briefings, the daily operational management, of course, under the DGMO. So the initial briefing for those few months of the Kargil starting April onwards and going all the way to October were initially started by me myself, giving out as to what is the ground situation, including the cabinet. So the cabinet would meet almost twice or thrice a week. Chief would come every day. So the morning briefing was started by me. And then as we went up the ladder, other people took over the briefing as the canvas became larger and larger, but I was there throughout. Now, without going into detail of nitty-gritty of the operations, uh, that experience led me to accompany the DGMO to USA for talks after the nuclear explosions in 1999. Then I accompanied the DGMO to Vaga uh, to work out the Pakistani withdrawal plan with the Pak DGMO in early July. No, the modalities. So we flew down and had a chat. Then I accompanied Sri Arun Singh, who was Minister of State in the Foreign Affairs, special appointment. And there were two of us in the delegation. The other one is the current Foreign Secretary, Vikram Mishri. So two of us accompanied Arun Singh for talks in New York and the Pentagon. Now this is post Kargil, right? So there was a lot of interaction as to what all happened, and that again is again. So what happened is this kind of exposure gave me a very good understanding of the higher direction of war, what you call grand strategy, and coming down. And since I was actually handling the operations right down to the nitty gritty. Now, I will not go into any specifics. I'll just cover three aspects over here. One is there's a lot of literature out on Kargil. I mean, a lot of interviews, people have written books. A lot of people who written books have actually thanked me and my section, like Captain Aminder Singh, for all the, because all the documentation was with me. So, Supreme Minimum Committee report, again, all the documentation came from me. The official Kargil history has been written by my section, the one which has gone to the formations. So, we were actually the fountainhead of all the knowledge. There is a lot which is not yet been addressed by almost anyone. So what happens is at some stage, I feel, and those who know what I'm talking about know what I'm talking about, we will have to address certain issues which are not addressed. So that is point one. Second one is I'll come on to just a broad in strategic thinking. We're talking about a strategy of deterrence. The primary aim of any armed force in the world is to deter war. If you can't deter war, actually theoretically you failed. Okay, if you look at it in a wider perspective. Strategy of deterrence has got four legs. You're looking at capability, credibility, communication, and perception. Capability is military capability, like I said, like an armored regiment ready to go to war at 8 hours notice. A nation should be ready to go to war in 1 week's notice. Because what happens is the enemy's capability is there. His intentions can change overnight. So no one can prophesy and say X country will not go to war with you. Because intentions can change. Credibility is that you will do what you say. Communication is communicating very clearly to the opposing side that this is what I will do, should you do that. And last is perception. What is the enemy's perception of you? So actually, when you look at strategy or deterrence, this is what armed forces have to be doing 24/7. It's a full-time work. So now when you look inside and say, okay, do you have the capability? Are you lacking? So if you ask them, okay, frankly, today is say 24th of July. On 1st August, are you ready to go to war or not? If the answer is no, there's something wrong. Okay. This is the most major lesson I have learned and which I would like to pass on. Because if you can't do that, that means if you're asking your unit to do that, you're asking your formations to do that, you're asking everybody else down the line to do that, then why aren't you ready? I mean, that means all the bricks in place are doing the job, right? But we at the macro level are not able to deliver, right? So that is my second point. Third point I'd like to highlight is the tremendous courage and bravery of our officers and men. It's very rare for armies to be able to accomplish what we did. In high altitude, the kind of attacks that went in, the kind of casualty, the kind of grit, the kind of determination showed, it is actually remarkable. If anything that saved the day, I would say today, would be the bravery of our men and officers. I will leave aside all other issues of because there is so much. When we wrote the official history, we went by the war diaries of what the units gave. We had taken a very conscious decision. General Vij is totally in picture, that we took a very major call that from our side we will just follow what, by and large, what the unit have put in the war diaries, officially recorded that, and up the chain, vetted by every formation, we will go strictly as per that. So we followed that principle, right? So, but the macro lessons that I am bringing out, many of those are still to be addressed. And General Vij has spoken on this. General Malik gave an interview just now at Hindustan Times where he spoken about failure of intelligence at the highest level. So again, we've gone into a strategic sphere. Now, this is what all our ex-chiefs have written about. It's on record. So certain things have still to be addressed. And that is the major lesson that.
Sir, I must say one thing. I have spoken to military men. I have spoken. My father is from army himself. Everybody has given their glimpses of what they saw through their eyes. But you being at a position of responsibility where the entire army structure, from brick by brick to the highest national level where you're representing or understanding everything. This is the first narrative I have had of not just for the, I mean, it was Kargil as a context, but I could understand from your voice that what it takes to move the army, mobilize the army, and what kind of readiness Indian Defense Forces have. I'm very happy that sir, you could spell it out because जो but लोग इसको सुन रहे हैं, the position of responsibilities comes like this. As sir mentioned that you grow and you grow to position of leadership. ऐसा obviously he mentioned that every stage you grow and it binds upon you and up or challenging role or you would keep on doing better. And I think that was the topmost thing to happen for him at that time, where I can see you are a very calm person, a very, what I can understand, very smiling face, because the kind of stress or the kind of reporting or the kind of demand we were seeing in the news item every day, those briefings, everybody from the radio to newspaper, new NDTV had come, all everybody was eyes glued on that कि क्या हो रहा है वहाँ पे, खबर आ रही कि नहीं आ रही. And there was a spokesperson who used to come in the evening in Doordarshan and everybody used to cover, and there was one way communication. He used to just answer and then go, and then we used to hear uh, young men coming, their this thing coming, bodies coming. So these, at while you're talking about that, you didn't mention about that, but from your conversation, I could understand that you had the eyes and ears spread across the entire story. You knew
Yeah,
about. I mean, you were knowing it. क्या हो रहा है मेरे country में and things like that. I think, sir, thank you for that because the session was about this, but session was more about you being the hero of career journey. I would now come to the thing I want to ask. The first thing when I saw, I connected. I must tell people that I connected sir through LinkedIn. Let me tell you, I never could find except the army way written over there. I could never guess that he's Major General Ashok Sheoran. I thought he's a person from some creative art. He's a producer, White Knight Creation. I saw some poster of drama, some poster of movie, and I myself was like, I want to know this person. So my next question is for people who think men in olive can only command and मिलिट्री कैंटीन में घूम सकते हैं और क्या कर रहा है थम कौन आता है यही बोल सकते हैं. I think you have broken all the barriers. I want to hear from your own mouth the transition into a creative arts. कैसे, how, I'm sure, I don't know. I want to know the story from you, sir. Just 5 minutes of your into this personality which we see today,
definitely.
which we hear today, sir.
I'm glad, Abhilash, you asked this question because, frankly, ever since I got into writing and making films 4 years back, in 2020, I started. This is the most frequently asked question, and I have been thinking on this myself. Just then it struck me, when I was giving talks in colleges and all, because this was the most that actually, let's look at the art of warfare. I consider the art of warfare the senior most art. People say theater and films are the greatest art form because they combine everything: dance, drama, photography, music, emotion, everything. If you take the art of warfare, you actually go much higher because warfare calls for intense creativity, intense innovation. You are handling unpredictability. So actually, a military leader, even say a platoon commander taking his men out for an operation, right? And he's confronted with the situation. Now look at his mind working, where he had to come up within minutes of what to do, how to place the men, how to react. Bullets are flying. Look at his creativity and how he is approaching it. So what happens is all of us in the armed forces, all of us who are there, without quite realizing it, are actually very creative, right? Because you're perpetually thinking on your feet. You're always thinking of what can happen, and if that happens, what will I do? And if it's going on, what is my solution? So this is continuous. So without realizing it, actually we are very, very creative. And history has found that a lot of things have gone from warfare into, I mean, go back right from the beginning, you're talking about sonar, radar, management system. Okay. So I found is my biggest advantage, besides the creative thinking, we've seen action, we met a lot of interesting people, and by and large, army officers after certain we write well by and large. If you write even today, the articles written say by Lieutenant General D.S. Huda, you know, it writes so well. So it's actually when you read it, it's not just an article. It's the style of writing is so good. Lieutenant General Shergill writes so well. There are so many others who write very well. You want to read the writing. Now, when you combine all this, actually, I'm surprised aren't so many more in this line because you
You
acting like
have
a
broken the
duck.
barriers. I think you will inspire. I am now feeling that after seeing this session today, many of the Fauji folks who would be thinking of kya kare would actually jump to the creative field and reach out to you only. कि कैसे पहला कदम उठाए to like you started white. I actually said it is very surprising. You may not because you are saying it in a very easy form, the art of warfare and with that kind of a reference. बट वो जो एक पर्सनालिटी पर्सोना बैरियर है फॉर अदर्स टू आई एम श्योर यू वुड हैव met people with amusement in their eyes while talking to you and when
Yes,
you
yes,
introduce
yes, definitely. I mean, I take it as a matter of pride because what happens is like a bumblebee not supposed to fly. Okay. So theoretically, I'm not supposed to be in this line. I mean, I'm not supposed to be doing. In fact, at the age of 70, I'm violating each and every rule. I still run 4 kilometers every alternate day. I go to pubs. So I'm into theater. I'm acting. I'm writing. I'm producing. So what happens is you learn to violate all the rules. Okay, and you do it your own way. So what happened is I wrote a short story, and then I read up on how to make a screenplay. Now, Abhilash, I'll tell you something. Writing a screenplay is one of the most fascinating creative things you can ever do and think of. Because in that, your visualization of a scene, say me even sitting here talking to you are building in, it'll be 2 pages. You're putting in camera angles, you're putting in wide angle, narrow angle, you're putting in the music, you're putting in the mood, you're putting in my dress, right? Each angle you're looking at, अभी close up करेंगे, अभी पीछे करेंगे, and you're writing it all down. So what happens is the thrill of writing a screenplay is absolutely unique. So when I wrote my first screenplay, I sent it to my classmate Kamaljeet, who I told you was big in Bollywood, right? He read it in one night. I thought he'll take weeks because he's a very busy person. He does so many movies. He read it in one night, and next morning 9 o'clock he rang up. अशोक यार कमाल कर दिया ये क्या लिख दिया तूने? I said भाई कहता बड़ा अच्छा अच्छा कुछ करो यार. Then my son he works with me and we are very close and even now we are working right together. He's the executive producer with me. He said, Dad, let's do it ourselves. Why give it to anybody else? I said, okay. So we scouted around, got a good director, and we made a first short film. Then we made a second short film. Then I made a feature film. So when I went on to make my fourth feature film, the budget went way off because the actors' fees were through the roof. So then I said, okay, let's take a break. So I went to do theater. Now, theater, I thought I'll just pass time, learn a bit. But theater turned out to be such a massive learning experience. I joined only last year. I've been there 1 year, 3 months. It is so immersive and you learn about human emotions first for 1 month, human behavior, body language, voice modulation, stage presence, then background story, philosophies. You're looking at Camus, you're looking at Beckett, you're trying to understand the philosophy, existentialism. How do I add Godot unless I know it? I did Shylock, I did a monologue on Shylock. Now I have to understand what Shylock was all about. Why did he become like this? How were the Jews being treated? You have to read up books and then you identify with Shylock. So I gave a talk on Shylock, why Shylock is Shylock. And why did he give that? I've done a monologue. So what happens is that I didn't realize there's a whole new world out there. So then I got into theater, and we just produced our first few plays, which were up on 21st, houseful, and it was such a lovely sight to see people cheering, clapping, the actors. A very good director, Saurabh Padi is outstanding. So I have written a play now. It's a musical thriller comedy, very unique. A slice of Broadway, live dancing, live singing, and action was spread over 2 hours. And it is due on 15th September. We started our work. So it so creative. It keeps you so involved. It is something where you forget. I mean, when you say retired, I say, who's retired? Yeah. I'm no one here retired. So even when I was typing that name retired, my son knows I'm very against it. I write Indian Army veteran. I say, I'm not retired. I'm an Indian Army veteran.
Fantastic, sir. I would like to tell all my audience, I'm sure all of you are amazed the way, with the finesse, he spoke about tactical war leadership and war stories, and then about dramatics and stage and screenplays. His details and his production detail are there in the description. I request all of you who want to have experience of an immersive act and theater लाइफ में, स्कूल के बाद आपने कभी, मेरे को लगता नहीं आपने स्टेज देखा होगा, प्लीज जाइए and see the White Knight production. And sir is doing so many plays. Be a part of it. You will, what you will gain, you never know what you will gain. The way he mentioned, there's a whole new world over there, and I can see from his face that he himself had never thought what he's exploring today, and there's much more to explore. I request all my audience, अपना संडे निकालिए, सैटरडे निकालिए. सर हैज रिटन अ ब्रॉडवे ऑल्सो, एंड आई एम श्योर दिस गोइंग टू गो अक्रॉस द नेशन एंड ग्लोब. आप जाइए एंड गिव हिम अ विटनेस ऑफ व्हाट यू एक्सपीरियंस, एंड दैट्स फ्रॉम मैन फ्रॉम a military veteran, an Indian Army veteran who has seen the world, who's seen the world changing through maps. इनका रेजिमेंट वो है जिसने दुनिया का, विश्व का मैप चेंज किया है फ्रॉम 1719. इफ यू, अगर आपको थोड़ी सी वर्ल्ड हिस्ट्री में आर्मी, इंडियन आर्मी हिस्ट्री आप पढ़ेंगे, तो आप समझ पाएंगे व्हाट आर डेकन हॉर्सेस डन, व्हाट लेगेसी दे होल्ड. ब्रिटिश आर्मी के साथ दुनिया का नक्शा बदलने में जिनका हाथ है, उनके साथ आज हम बात कर रहे हैं. ऑब्वियसली सर, इट्स अ वेरी, एक्चुअली आई एम हैविंग वेरी मिक्स्ड इमोशन. व्हाट इज हैपनिंग, मैं पहले थोड़ी सी कारगिल और देशभक्ति, और आई वाज फीलिंग इन वेरी, more of a patriotic kind of a feeling, because you were, you gave me a picture and structure of the person who could take such kind of responsibility. It is about the nation, the military warfare, what kind of stress one goes through, what kind of readiness. You spoke about the four commandment through which you should be ready, and with that ease you spoke about art, creative field, and you said only 4 years, and I felt like you were, you've been doing it for like 38 years over there, 38 years over here also. And I'm very very fortunate. But sir, we are limited by time. I have my one last, not a question, but something, for the young audience, for the youth who get really confused, do not stick up to one thing and unable to understand or wait or have a patience, कि चाहे वो करियर डिलेमा हो, चाहे वो people around हो, they are unable to tactfully navigate their own career or life progression at that time.
Yeah,
कुछ मूल मंत्र, now that you're, I know, I understand that sir is there in everywhere. आपने, you've seen the salt of life, sugar of life, and everything of life in your entire journey. थोड़ी सी for my young audience, and anything which you want to speak to them, sir.
yeah, definitely. Yeah. Thank you, Abhilash. I'm glad you asked because then I got on to life coaching and I've been giving a lot of talks. Uh, and I love interacting with students that don't even charge anything. As you give me a cup of coffee, that's enough because I feel I can contribute. It gives me a lot of joy helping people rise to their full potential. So, on LinkedIn, the 5,000 people that are there at any given time, there are quite a few of them. So, what happens is that what I have understood from first, there are 4, 5 important things because my main topic is always life lessons and contemporary issues, right? So in life lessons, the most major point that comes out is first understanding yourself. Now that it sounds very simple. People have a mindset, and that mindset is conditioning from childhood. That means when you are a young child, what your parents tell you, what your siblings tell you, what your classmates tell you, what your teachers tell you, formulates your opinion of yourself. So, for example, you are say 3 or 4 years old, and some guests come in the house, and you're behind a curtain, and your mother says, "ये तो बहुत शर्माती है." Now you'll carry that all your life. That I can't be on stage. I am shy. A young boy wants to join, say, a tennis match, and he hits the first ball, it goes over the net somewhere, and his friends start laughing at him. He chucks the racket, never picks it up again. So what happens is a lot of us are conditioned. They're not the real you. So when you follow a conditioned personality, you can't flower out because you feel, oh, I can't do this, I can't do this. How can I do that? How can I do this? No, I am this. I had to be a chartered accountant. I hate it. I don't want to sit in office. But I have to do, how can I do that? So first you have to break that mold. You have to understand your own talent, your own traits, your own personalities, your own boundaries, and any constraining factors. First is you. Then comes your potential, financial potential, your own potentials. I met so many people. So I always wanted to do dramatics, I always wanted to paint, I always wanted to sing, I always wanted to write. Because the moment they meet me, the creative side comes out. And I'm so happy. I've got so many people who've gone into writing because of me, started singing, started painting, started exercising, started doing so many things that they were not doing earlier. And they thank me a lot for that because they didn't see that part of themselves. So first is understanding yourself. Second very important point is defining success. Then you get an aim in life. The defining success is internal. You define your own success. Nobody else can define it for you. An extreme example, say there's a photographer for National Geographic, tracks a bird for 4 years and gets the ultimate photograph. Right? Now, for him is defining. But for a businessman in Delhi, what the hell, yeah, this chap went for 4 years in the jungle. So, who defines success for you? You. So, benchmarking success and happiness to an external force, you're looking for failure. You're setting yourself up. You set your own benchmark. Now you link the two. What am I? What is my definition of success? Now you put in a life aim, and in aim you put goals and objectives. Goal medium term, objective short term. And then you go at it. And then you come to lifestyle, which I am a great believer in. That you live life by the day. You cannot do at 30 what you can do at 20. You cannot do at 40, you can do at 30. So a lot of the young people have been told work 14 hours a day for 10 years, make a lot of money, and then live well. Sorry, life doesn't work like that. You have to live by the day, by the week, by the month. And you have to, because what you can do today, you can't do. So at 40, you cannot get back to college days and say, yeah, 20-year-old, वो नहीं होगा. You have to live by the day, week, and go ahead at it. And each day is life. So you work and then you keep up signal want to enjoy. That enjoyment period, doing what you love and like, is life. Nobody looks back at work. So if I'm looking, say today at the interview, I'm looking at it, okay, this is life. This is a slice of life. Okay, because I'm doing something I enjoy. So doing what you love, doing what you enjoy, experiences are life. Work is work. So we have to segregate the two. and people are not giving enough focus on exercise, because if you read this book on longevity by Peter Attia and so many other articles, actually your entire aging cycle, health cycle, all comes down to three things: exercise, diet, and sleep. You skinch out on these, you're setting yourself up to become very sickly by the age of 40. That all that money you've earned is of no use. You can't eat, drink, or do anything that you wanted to do. So actually, all that hard work come to zero. So now this is, I've given you in a nutshell what I cover, and then I take on in detail other things like handling stress, handling uncertainty, handling trauma, handling loss, handling failure. There's so many other things in life, anxiety. So those are the answers. So I mean, this is, I'm just in a nutshell. So when you talk about okay, what advice you have to offer, so I'm just giving certain parameters.
I had a glimpse of your sir being a life coach. And I must tell you, sir, because as you mentioned that LinkedIn is our link connecting bridge. There are folks, there are people, there are institutes who look out for mentors and life coaches or motivational speakers. And I'm sure after watching today's session, I'm going to put your description, connecting description in my description, so that the institute can either reach me or reach you directly. Because what you mentioned today, live life by day, is something looks very. You actually, I found you have this ability to put a complex thing in a very simple single sentence. You just did it with the your illustrious फौजी career. You did it with your creative art, and now as a motivational speaker also आपने बड़े सरलता से, or what you can, a very simplified way you mentioned about certain principles based on which your longevity, your taking up new arts. And that, in fact, that's why I felt when you mentioned कि आपको देख के people started painting, singing, or doing going exercising, because I think you actually spread that aura. I can see that energy coming from you. And all of us read books, see a lot of people, but when you meet a person like you actually touch them through spirit कि वो कुछ अलग कर पाए. I feel that I'm having that feeling today when I'm speaking with you, having an interaction with you. So with this, sir, I would like to thank for your time. And I know I asked for 30 minutes, but somehow even I got so much engrossed. I didn't want to stop in between, and I felt कि मुझे आज सुनना है सर से, and let me just cover my time. But I would be bothering you again, but with a more specific aspect of topic to speak on, because this time it was I knowing you also, and this was our first interaction. But I'm sure many people in my network, many institutes would also bother you for your personality and your way of looking at life, which is very, very inspiring and needful for the youth to understand. एंड स्पेशली जो आपने बात कही कि एट ए कॉर्पोरेट लाइफ ये होता ही है कि आप 15 साल 14 घंटे काम कर रहे हो, एंड व्हाट यूर अर्निंग इज गोइंग टू इज एक्चुअली being spent on your getting back your health, or but you cannot get back the time which is gone by and things like that. वो तो सर ऐसा है ना, वो हाथ जलने के बाद ही पता चलता है कि आग था वो। तो वो उस पे लेकिन बट क्या करें, आई थिंक यू बी मेंटर्स एंड पीपल हु आर लाइक यू योर टॉक्स सुनते-सुनते भी लोग इंस्पायर हो जाते हैं। So thank you so much for your time, sir, and I
Thank you,
salute
Abhilash.
over
I
your
hope, no,
enthusiasm.
no, you've been a perfect host,
I'm very
and I
grateful for
enjoyed
your time.
interacting with you. I didn't feel the time flying by. You can edit as you like.
No, so
uh,
nothing to edit, sir. It will be as it is. I want the wo because जो देखेगा वो भी एनग्रॉस्ड होके उतना ही देखेगा जितना हम हो गए, आपको मंत्रमुग्ध हो गए, इनफैक्ट हिंदी में एक वर्ड है तो आई वांटेड दैट क्रिएटिव फील्ड करियर के बारे में मैं आपसे ज़्यादा सुनना चाहता था, बिकॉज द बिजी लाइफ जब सबका हो जाता है, वी फाइंड इट वेरी डिफिकल्ट टू टेक दैट स्टेप ऑफ समथिंग वेरी डिफरेंट फ्रॉम व्हाट वी हैव बीन डूइंग अर्लियर. आपने वो कर दिखाया, लाइक आई पुट इट इन अ वेरी ऐसे ऐसे करके आपने बोल दिया एक सीक्वेंसली बिकॉज ऑफ द टाइम कंस्ट्रेंट. बट आई एम श्योर आपने भी अप्स एंड डाउन्स देखे होंगे, फाइंडिंग डिफरेंट काइंड ऑफ पीपल्स इंटरेक्टिंग. But anyway, sir, thank you for your time again. I'm very happy you gave me time, and we could discuss, we could understand your career journey, you being a career leader, you being a leader in every field and every action that you have done. एंड आई वुड विश यू ऑल द बेस्ट सर. आप ऐसे और नए चीज़ करते रहिए, एंड आई एम वेरी वेरी हैप्पी. आई एम लाइक एक्साइटेड ऑन द ब्रॉडवे पार्ट ऑफ इट, जो आपने थोड़ी सी ग्लिम्स दिया. एंड वंस इट इज देयर, यू लेट शेयर मी द promo. I'm going to circulate it among my network as well, wherever the release happens, and I'll be there with you, connected to promote your work and every activity that you
Thank
do.
you.
I'll be there with you. मैं आपका फैन बन गया हूँ सर,
Thank you
बस अब
very
आप
much.
चिंता, मतलब मैं आपका फैन
It's
बन
a
गया हूँ.
privilege being on your show, and I really enjoyed interacting with you. You know, very nice interaction, very informal, and I enjoyed talking to you. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
Thank you, sir. Bye, sir. So I'll end the show over here, sir. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.